What kind of media institution might distribute your media product and why? So, a media institution is a production or distribution company, sometimes both. These could be conglomerates, which are companies that branch off into many forms of media, or these could be more independent companies that focus on lower production value films. Disney is an example of a conglomerate, as it produces films, television, radio, merchandising, etc., even theme parks. The main distribution company for Disney is Buena Vista, which it owns. To help me discover what kind of institution might distribute my film, I am going to look into the films I use for primary research and also do a mini case study on a larger scale Hollywood film. Genre is key to defining what companies would be interested in your film because it can specify what type of audience the film would have and whether it's for a mass audience or whether it's niche and fragmented. Trainspotting is an independent British film. Independent British funding, independent British production, and British distribution from a British-owned company, Entertainment. The US distribution company was Miramax. By this time, Miramax had been bought by Disney, but was still being run by the Weinstein brothers. So although it was owned by a conglomerate, the producers interested in independent films still had a lot of control and choice. Most of the time, the UK and US distribution is done by the same company, so it's significant that Entertainment distributed this film in the UK. And this is because the film was released in the UK long before anywhere else was interested. Layer Cake is a British-made film, but the funding for the film is split between an independent British company and a mainstream US company, which also distributed the film. The independent British company was actually Marv Films, which is owned by the film's director, Matthew Vaughn. But the main production credit goes to Sony Pictures, part of the Sony conglomerate. Layer Cake's distribution was by Columbia Pictures, which is owned by Sony Pictures, so also owned by Sony. This is an example of a British film funded by the US. I have decided to do my case study on the 2006 film The Departed. This is a major Hollywood picture that fits the same genre as my film. The budget was $90 million and it was directed by Martin Scorsese, the most award-nominated living director, and winning the Oscar for this film, being one of the most acclaimed film directors to exist. As well as this, the film also contained around 6 stars, showing 4 Oscar wins between them and 19 nominations. So the conglomerate that made this film was Time Warner. Among its subsidiaries are Warner Brothers, New Line Cinema, Cartoon Network, HBO, CNN, and others. In the case of The Departed, its studio was Warner Brothers, so this was responsible for a large portion of production costs and the film's distribution. After these small case studies, I can come to a brief conclusion of what sort of media institution might distribute my product. If our film was a large-scale production that had a high budget and valuable names to the cast and crew, a studio such as Warner Brothers could possibly take it on and ultimately distribute our film to a considerable amount of screens. But since this is so far an extremely low-budget film, the other options have to be considered. What is most likely in the UK is that, in the case of Trainspotting, our film will be produced by a small independent company, such as Channel 4 Films. Then a suitable distribution company would have to be found. A company like Entertainment would work, as this helps to promote British-made independent films. For US distribution, there are more options because studios are more heavily involved. The film could either be distributed by a subsidiary of a conglomerate, such as Miramax. Although this company is now controlled by Disney because it was sold by the Weinstein brothers, it is still focused on the smaller types of films because Disney's primary distribution company is Buena Vista. The other US option is to find a distribution company such as Focus Features or Newmarket Films that are small subsidiaries and concentrate on art house cinema productions.